All right, let's dive right into one of the most pivotal promises in the entire Old Testament. We're heading to 2 Samuel chapter 7, where a king's really good plan to build a temple gets completely turned on its head and becomes a promise that literally echoes through eternity.
You know that feeling, right? You've got this great idea, it makes perfect sense, you think it's a slam dunk, and then you get a hard no. Well, that's pretty much what happens to King David. And that rejection, that no, actually sets the stage for something way, way bigger than he could have ever dreamed of.
So let's get the scene. We're talking about King David here. The man has finally done it. He's brought peace to the kingdom, he's united the people, he's at the absolute peak of his power. And he has this genuine desire to honor God. So it's around 10,000 BCE. Years of fighting are over. David isn't a fugitive hiding in caves anymore. He is the king, living in a beautiful palace made of cedar. And it's in this quiet moment of peace that he looks around and has this thought. Wait a minute. Here I am, living in this gorgeous house. But the Ark of God, the very presence of God, is still in a tent? So his plan seems totally reasonable, even noble. In the ancient world, this is just what you did. If you were a great king, you built a magnificent temple for your God. It was a sign of respect, of power, of gratitude. So David wants to build God a permanent house, a home worthy of him. I mean, it's a generous, heartfelt plan. What could possibly be wrong with that? And this is where the story takes a turn you just don't see coming. You'd expect God to be thrilled, right? Instead, David gets a hard pass, a big, surprising no. And that really is the million-dollar question here, isn't it? Why would God turn down a beautiful temple, a gift offered from a sincere heart? It seems totally backwards. So God sends the prophet Nathan with a message. And it's not just a simple no thanks, it's a profound redirect. God essentially asks David, hey, look back. In all the years since I brought Israel out of Egypt, did I ever once turn to one of your leaders and say, why haven't you built me a house of cedar? The point isn't about the gift, it's about who's in charge. God is making it crystal clear that his plans are based on divine initiative, not human ambition. But here's the brilliant part. God doesn't just shoot down David's plan and leave it at that. He replaces it with something infinitely bigger. And the whole thing hinges on this clever, powerful play on words. And the key that unlocks this entire conversation is one single Hebrew word, bayit. It can mean a few things. David is using it to mean a physical house, his palace, and a temple. But God is about to pick up that same word and use its third meaning, a family line, a dynasty, to completely flip the script on David. And this just lays it out so perfectly. This is the great reversal. David says, I'm going to build you a house, a temporary building made of stone and wood. And God comes back and says, no, David, you're not building me a house. I am going to build you a house, an eternal dynasty, a legacy of people that will last forever. The builder and the building just got completely swapped. This incredible promise from God is so foundational that it becomes known as the Davidic covenant. So let's break down exactly what God is guaranteeing to David and all his descendants. Okay, so this covenant rests on 4 amazing pillars. God promises David an eternal kingdom and a throne that will last forever. But it gets even more personal. He promises a father-son relationship with David's heir, and he seals it with his hesed. That's this incredibly powerful Hebrew word for a loyal, steadfast covenant love that will never, ever be taken away. Now, this father-son thing is so important. It doesn't mean David's line is going to be perfect. God is very clear, when they mess up, there will be discipline. But, and this is a massive but, it's the discipline of a loving father, not a judge. It's corrective, not destructive. This is a huge shift from what happened with King Saul, where God's favor was just completely removed. God is saying that won't happen here. And here is the promise in its full, breathtaking power. And your house and your kingdom shall be made sure forever before me. Your throne shall be established forever. You hear that word? Forever? This isn't a temporary deal. God is making an eternal, unbreakable promise. And you have to understand, this wasn't just some nice thing for David to hear. This one promise became a central hope that would shape the destiny of an entire nation and eventually influence the whole world. For centuries, people have looked at this promise from all kinds of angles. In Jewish tradition, it became the bedrock for messianic hope, this deep longing for a future king from David's line who would restore everything. The early church looked at the same words and saw a clear prophecy pointing straight to Jesus. And, modern scholars debate its origins. Was it theology, royal propaganda, or maybe a text written during the exile to give people hope? Let's zoom in on that second interpretation for a second to see how deeply it shaped Christian thought. In Christian theology, this is where all the puzzle pieces start snapping into place. The New Testament writers present Jesus as the ultimate offspring of David. Remember when the angel Gabriel talks to Mary? He says her son will be given the throne of his father David, and that his kingdom will have no end. And then Jesus himself talks about his own body being the true temple, the one that would be torn down and raised in 3 days. So what's the big picture here? It's that a well-intentioned, human-sized plan for a building of stone was swapped out for something far grander, a divine, God-sized, eternal plan for a living dynasty that would ultimately become a redemptive plan for all of humanity. And that kind of brings it all home for us, doesn't it? We all have our own plans, our own projects, these houses we're trying to build in our lives, and usually they come from a good place. But the story of David challenges us to ask a tough question. Are we holding on to our own plans so tightly that we might be missing the bigger, better, and maybe totally different plan that's being offered to us instead?